My daughter listed my house as vacant and told the buyers the previous owner had passed away, all while I was lying in the master bedroom recovering from surgery. She had blocked the door and cut the phone lines, thinking she'd cash the check before I could walk again. She didn't realize I could crawl. I waited until she was shaking hands on the offer to open the bedroom door and deliver a humiliation publicly. The real estate board stripped her license by morning. It started with the knee, a total replacement of the right joint. The doctor said I needed 6 weeks of rest. He said I needed a caregiver. "I'll do it," Sarah said. She said it fast, too fast. Sarah is my youngest, 38, a real estate agent who drives a white Range Rover but asks me to pay for her gas when we go to lunch. She calls herself a luxury property specialist. I call her currently between closings, which she has been for 2 years. "I'm moving in, Mom," she told me in the hospital room. "I'll handle everything: cooking, cleaning, physical therapy. You won't have to lift a finger." I wanted to believe her. I'm a retired teacher. I spent 40 years teaching high school history. I know how to spot a lie in a teenager's homework. But when it's your own child, you put the blinders on. You want to believe they finally grew up. I signed the discharge papers. I went home to the house on Elm Street. This house is my life. My husband, Frank, and I bought it in 1988. We paid $82,000 for it. We scraped. We saved. We didn't go on vacation for 5 years so we could fix the roof. Now, Zillow says it's worth $650,000. It's fully paid off. It's my nest egg, my safety. The first 2 days were fine. Sarah brought me soup, she fluffed my pillows, she set up the pill organizer on the nightstand. Then the shift happened. It was subtle. "Mom, you look tired," she said on day 3. "I'm going to take your phone. The screen time is bad for your healing. You need to sleep." "I need to call your Aunt Linda," I said. "I already called her," Sarah smiled. It was a tight smile. It didn't reach her eyes. "I told her you're resting and no visitors for a while. Doctor's orders." She took the iPhone from the nightstand. She put it in her pocket. "Just for a few days," she said. That night, I heard a noise in the hallway. A thud. Then the sound of dragging. I called out, "Sarah?" "Go back to sleep, Mom." Her voice was sharp, impatient. I tried to sit up. The pain in my knee was a jagged bolt of lightning. I gasped and fell back. The painkillers made everything fuzzy. I felt heavy, useless. The next morning, I noticed the picture frames were gone. The dresser across from my bed usually held a photo of Frank and me in Hawaii, and a graduation photo of Sarah. The wood was bare. "Sarah?" I shouted. She came in holding a tray of toast. She wasn't wearing her usual sweatpants. She was wearing a blazer, heels, full makeup. "Where are the pictures?" I asked. "Oh, I'm doing a deep clean," she said. "Dust collectors. I boxed them up so I could polish the wood." "Why are you dressed up?" "Just a showing," she said. "Client meeting. Eat your toast." She didn't help me to the bathroom that day. She left a bedpan. "I have to run," she said. "Don't try to get up. You'll fall." She closed the bedroom door. I heard the lock click. It's an old house. The doors have skeleton key locks. From the outside. I stared at the door. The wood is oak, solid. I wasn't scared yet. I was confused. I thought maybe she was stressed. Maybe she was trying to keep me safe from wandering. Then, I heard the truck. It was a heavy rumble, a box truck. I listened. I heard boots on the hardwood floors downstairs. "Careful with that," Sarah's voice floated up through the floor vents. "That recliner is trash, just dump it, but be careful with the walls." My heart stopped. Frank's recliner. It was ugly, plaid, tattered, but he died in that chair. I read my books in that chair. I tried to yell, "Sarah, don't you touch that chair!" My voice was weak. The oxycodone dried out my throat. I grabbed the water glass. Empty. I heard more scraping. They were moving the dining room table. "Okay, bring in the staging furniture," Sarah commanded. "I want the modern farmhouse package. Gray sofas, glass tables, make it look like a model home." Staging. The word hung in the stale air of my bedroom. You don't stage a house you're cleaning. You stage a house you're selling. Panic is a cold thing. It starts in the toes and works its way up. I looked around the room. My phone was gone. The landline jack in the hallway, I couldn't reach it even if the door was open. I was trapped. I dragged myself to the edge of the bed. My knees screamed. I looked at the window. It faces the backyard. No one would see me. I laid there for hours, listening. I heard the staging crew leave. I heard Sarah on the phone. "Yes," she was saying. Her voice was the professional voice she uses. "It's a pocket listing, very exclusive. The owner, yes, it's tragic. She's in a memory care facility now, advanced dementia. The family just wants a quick sale, cash only." Dementia. She wasn't just selling my house. She was erasing me. If I was in a facility, I couldn't contest the sale. If I had dementia, my signature on a power of attorney, which I realized with horror she might have forged, would look legitimate to a casual observer. She was selling my $650,000 asset for quick cash while I was lying 10 feet above her head. I heard her walk up the stairs. She unlocked the door. She came in with a smile that was terrifying. "Did you nap, Mom?" "I heard you," I whispered. "I heard the truck." She didn't flinch. She sat on the edge of the bed and patted my leg, the bad one. "You're hallucinating, Mom. It's the meds. The doctor warned us about this." "You took Frank's chair." "Dad's chair is downstairs. You're confused." She stood up. "I'm going to give you your evening pills now. 2 blues, 1 white." She held them out. I looked at her hand. Manicured, red polish. The hand of a woman who needed $50,000 by Friday to pay off her credit cards. I knew about the debt. I'd seen the collection notices she thought she hid in her car when I borrowed it last month. "I'm not hungry," I said. "I'll take them later." "Now, Mom." Her voice dropped an octave. "Don't be difficult." I swallowed the pills. But I didn't swallow them. I tucked them into the pocket of my cheek, right back by the molars, a trick I learned from a student named Jimmy in 1994 who tried to hide his gum. She watched me drink the water. She checked my mouth. I lifted my tongue. "Good girl," she said. She left. She locked the door again. I waited 5 minutes. I spit the pills into a tissue. I wasn't hallucinating. I was lucid, and I was furious. The anger was better than the pain meds. It sharpened the edges of the room. I needed to think. I had no phone, no internet. My leg was useless. But Sarah had made a mistake, a classic error of the arrogant. She underestimated the quiet one. She thought I was just a retired teacher, a sweet old lady. She forgot that you don't survive 30 years in the public school system without learning how to handle a bully. I looked at the vent in the floor. It was an old iron grate. Through it, I could see a sliver of the living room. I spent the next 2 days playing dead, the gray rock method. I became boring. I became compliant. When she came in, I drooled a little. I asked her where Frank was. I asked her if it was 1995. "Frank is at work, Mom," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "Go back to sleep." She relaxed. She stopped locking the door during the day because she thought I couldn't move. She left the door ajar so she could hear if I fell out of bed. That was her second mistake. Wednesday. That was the day of the broker's open. That's when realtors come to preview the house before the public. I heard the doorbell ringing. I heard the chatter. "Great bones," a man's voice said. "Price to move," Sarah replied. $590 for a quick close. $590,000. She was underselling it by 60 grand just to get the money fast, to get the commission, to steal the equity. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan. I did the math. If she sold it, the money would go into the account she had likely added her name to. She'd drain it, transfer it offshore or into crypto or whatever scheme she was into this week. By the time I proved I was sane, the money would be gone. I had to stop the sale, but I couldn't just scream. If I screamed, she'd run up here. She'd tell them I was having an episode. "So sorry, everyone, Mom is sundowning." She'd hustle them out. She'd sedate me for real. She'd move me to a cheap home the next day and sell the house next week. No. I needed witnesses. I needed indisputable proof. I needed to blow up the transaction in a way that ensured no one would ever buy a house from her again. I needed to make to the landing. The landing of our staircase overlooks the foyer and the living room. It's a theatrical balcony. Frank used to hang the Christmas garland from there. It was 20 feet from my bed to the door, another 10 feet to the railing, 30 feet. I looked at my leg. It was encased in a heavy immobilizer brace. I waited until the voices got loud. A party atmosphere. Sarah had put out wine. I could hear the clinking glasses. I threw the covers off. I swung my good leg over the side of the bed. I grit my teeth and lowered the bad leg. The pain was white hot. It felt like someone was hammering a nail into my shin bone. I didn't stand. I couldn't stand. I got on my hands and knees. Well, my hands and one knee. I dragged the right leg behind me like a dead weight. Shuffle, drag, gasp. Shuffle, drag, gasp. The carpet was rough against my elbows. I saw dust bunnies under the dresser Sarah hadn't cleaned. I remember thinking, I need to vacuum that, and then I almost laughed, a hysterical, dark laugh. I reached the doorway. The whole floor is hardwood, slippery. I used my forearms to pull myself forward. It was the army crawl I'd seen in movies. I stopped at the top of the stairs. I could see them through the banister posts. There were about 10 people, realtors, potential buyers. A young couple was holding hands, looking at the fireplace, my fireplace. Sarah was standing by the front door, holding a glass of white wine. She looked radiant. She was wearing a cream suit I paid for last Christmas. "We have an offer coming in tonight," Sarah was telling a woman with a clipboard. "But if your clients can beat cash, we might consider it. The title is clear. My mother, well, she's no longer with us, in the cognitive sense. I have full power of attorney." "It's a lovely home," the woman said. "Does it come vacant?" "Completely," Sarah said. "The upstairs is already cleared out, just some old boxes." Old boxes? That was me. I pushed myself closer to the edge. My nightgown was sweat-stained. My hair was matted. I hadn't showered in 4 days because Sarah didn't have time to help me. I must have looked like a monster. Perfect. I grabbed the spindle of the banister. I pulled myself up. Not all the way, just enough so my head and shoulders poked through the rails, hovering over the party like a gargoyle. I waited for a lull in the conversation. The young couple was asking about the school district. "It's excellent," Sarah chirped. "I grew up here." "Sarah!" My voice wasn't weak anymore. It was the voice I used in 1999 to break up a fistfight between two varsity linebackers. It projected. It boomed. The room froze. 10 faces turned upward. Sarah dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the foyer tile. Smash. The sound was satisfyingly sharp. "Mom?" she whispered. I didn't look at her. I looked at the buyers, the realtors. "My name is Eleanor Vance," I announced. My voice shook, but not from fear, from rage. "I am the owner of this house. I am not in a memory care facility. I do not have dementia, and this house is not for sale." Silence. Absolute silence. Then the murmurs started. Sarah's face went pale, paper white. She looked like a ghost. "She's confused," Sarah yelled, waving her hands. "I told you, she has episodes. Don't look at her. Everyone out, please. It's a medical emergency." She started trying to herd the people toward the door. "Don't you move," I roared. I pointed a shaking finger at the woman with the clipboard. "You. Are you a broker?" Yes," the woman stammered. "My daughter has disconnected my phone," I said. "She has blocked the exits. She is holding me prisoner in my own home to sell it out from under me. If you leave, you are complicit in elder abuse." The young couple backed away from Sarah like she was radioactive. I didn't know," the husband said. "Call the police," I commanded. "Now." Sarah scrambled up the stairs. She was coming for me. Her eyes were wild. "You stupid old bitch," she hissed as she hit the first step. "You ruined it. You ruined everything." She wasn't the loving daughter anymore. The mask was gone. I didn't flinch. I held on to the banister. "The police are coming, Sarah," I said calmly, "and I have the neighbors watching." I didn't, actually, but she didn't know that. She stopped halfway up the stairs. She looked back at the foyer. The broker was on her cell phone. "Yes, 911. I'm at 42 Elm. We have a hostage situation." Sarah froze. She looked at me. She looked at the door. She ran. She ran right past the buyers, out the front door, and to her Range Rover. I listened to the tires squeal as she peeled out of the driveway. I slumped against the railing. The adrenaline crashed. The pain came back, a tidal wave. The young man from the couple ran up the stairs. "Ma'am, are you okay? Can I help you up?" "Don't touch the leg," I whispered. "Just get me a phone." He handed me his iPhone. I didn't call the police. The broker had done that. I called my lawyer. Then I called the locksmith. The police arrived 7 minutes later. They took statements. They looked at the empty fridge, the lack of food, the bruises on my arm where Sarah had grabbed me too hard the day before. They took photos of the for sale sign in the yard. They put out an APB for Sarah Vance. But the police were just the beginning. The police deal with crimes. I wanted to deal with her life. I spent the next 3 days in the hospital, a real one this time. My knee was inflamed from the crawl, but the surgeon said the hardware held. I was tough. "You shouldn't have walked on it," he scolded. "I didn't walk," I told him. "I went into battle." While I was in the hospital, I started the paperwork. I revoked the power of attorney she had forged. I filed a restraining order. And I compiled the file. The Sarah file. I accessed my bank records. I saw the withdrawals. May 12th, $400. ATM. May 13th, $2,500. Venmo to Prestige Auto. May 15th, $5,000. Cash withdrawal. She had drained my checking account. She tried to access the retirement fund, but thank God for two-factor authentication on a phone she couldn't unlock because she didn't know the passcode was Frank's birthday, not hers. I realized this wasn't just about the house. This was years of resentment. Years of me saying no to her schemes, and her finally finding a way to force a yes. I was discharged on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, there was a hearing at the real estate board. Technically, it was an emergency suspension hearing. Sarah had been caught, flagged, and her license was on the line. She showed up. I was surprised. I thought she'd run to Mexico. But Sarah is a narcissist. She thought she could talk her way out of it. She thought she could spin the "mom is crazy" narrative one last time. The hearing was in a beige conference room in an office park. A long mahogany table, 5 board members. Sarah sat on one side with a cheap lawyer she probably paid with my money. I sat on the other side, in a wheelchair. My lawyer, Mr. Henderson, was a quiet man. He didn't need to be loud. We had the truth. Ms. Vance, the board chairwoman said. She looked stern. The allegations are severe: attempting to sell a property without the owner's consent, elder abuse, fraud. It's a misunderstanding, Sarah said. Her voice was trembling. Perfect victimhood. My mother, she's been confused since Dad died. She told me to sell it. She forgot. I was just trying to pay for her care. She wiped a tear, a fake, dry tear. I have the listing agreement right here, Sarah said, sliding a paper across the table, signed by Eleanor Vance. The chairwoman looked at the signature. It looks authentic, she muttered. Sarah smirked, just a little, a twitch of the corner of her mouth. It is authentic, I spoke up. Sarah looked at me, confused. That is my signature, I said. Or rather, it's a trace of my signature. I motioned to Mr. Henderson. He opened a folder. He pulled out a birthday card. This is a card Sarah gave me 3 years ago, I said. Look at the signature on the check I wrote her for her birthday inside it. Mr. Henderson placed the check image next to the listing agreement. Now, I said, look at the V in Vance. I have a tremor in my hand now. I've had it for 2 years. The signature on the listing agreement is smooth, perfect. It matches the signature from 2019 exactly. I paused. She traced an old signature using a lightbox. She forgot to add the tremor. The chairwoman pulled the papers closer. She pulled out a magnifying glass. And, I added, I have the audio. Sarah's eyes went wide. Audio? I'm a teacher, Sarah, I said. I have ears like a bat. But I also have a nanny cam in the teddy bear on my dresser. I bought it to watch the cat when I went on trips. You didn't box up the teddy bear. You thought it was trash. It was a lie. I didn't have a nanny cam. But I knew Sarah. I knew she was paranoid. You illegally recorded me? Sarah shouted, standing up. That's inadmissible. Sit down, Miss Vance, the chairwoman barked. This isn't a criminal court. This is an ethics hearing. We can listen to whatever we want. Sarah slumped back. She knew. She didn't know if the tape existed, but she knew what she had said in that room. She knew the slurs she used, the threats she muttered when she thought I was asleep. The guilt was written all over her face. I didn't need the tape. Her reaction was the confession. We don't need to hear the tape, the chairwoman said, watching Sarah's face. The signature discrepancy is enough, and the police report regarding the imprisonment. The chairwoman closed the folder. Sarah Vance, your license is hereby revoked, permanently. We will be forwarding our findings to the district attorney. Sarah looked at me. Mom, please, I can't go to jail. I have plans. You have nothing, I said. You have no license, you have no house, and you have no mother. I signaled Mr. Henderson, "Wheel me out." The criminal case took 6 months. I didn't attend every hearing. I didn't need to. The evidence was overwhelming. The broker who called 911 testified. The neighbors testified that they saw the sold sign go up and down in a day. Sarah took a plea deal, 18 months in minimum security for fraud and elder abuse. She calls me sometimes from the facility, collect. I don't answer. I changed the locks on the house. I hired a real cleaning crew to get the staging dust out. I brought Frank's ugly recliner back from the curb. The garbage men hadn't taken it yet. I had it steam cleaned. It sits right in the living room. My knee healed. It took longer than expected because of the crawl, but I'm walking. I walk around my garden every morning. I realized something during those long nights in the hospital. I had spent my whole life being the safety net. For Frank, for my students, for Sarah. I caught everyone when they fell. But when you're a safety net, people step on you. I'm not a net anymore. I'm a wall. I sold the house eventually, on my own terms. I hired the broker who called the police. She was honest. I got $670,000 for it. I bought a smaller condo in a 55-plus community. It has a gate, it has security, and it has 1 bedroom, no guest room. If anyone wants to visit, they can get a hotel. I was gardening yesterday, planting hydrangeas in the community plot, when a neighbor asked me about my daughter. "I heard she's away," the woman asked, trying to be polite. I dug the trowel into the dirt. I looked at the roots of the flower. Strong. Deep. "Yes," I said. "She's away learning a very expensive lesson." "Will she stay with you when she gets out?" I laughed. It was a genuine laugh this time. The sun was warm on my back. My knee didn't hurt at all. "No," I said. "I don't have room for parasites. I only grow flowers now." I patted the dirt down. I wiped my hands. I stood up, strong on 2 legs. I went inside, made a cup of tea, and sat in Frank's ugly chair. I looked at the phone on the table. It was silent. And it was the most beautiful sound in the world. Life is quiet now, but it's a good quiet. I joined a book club. I volunteer at the library on Tuesdays. I met a man named Arthur who likes history as much as I do. We argue about the Civil War over coffee. Sometimes I have nightmares. I dream I'm back in that bed, trapped, hearing the furniture scrape across the floor. I dream of the lock clicking. But then I wake up. I see the moonlight coming through my condo window. I see my phone on the nightstand, right where I left it. I reach out and touch it, just to check. It's there. I have control. Sarah sent a letter last week, 4 pages of excuses. She blamed the economy, she blamed her childhood, she blamed the pressure of the industry. On the last page, she asked for money for the commissary. I took a red pen, my old grading pen. I circled the spelling errors. I corrected her grammar. I wrote F, lacks accountability, at the top. And then I put it in the shredder. I didn't mail it back. Teaching moments are over. I'm retired.